I don't really feel like doing a I feel like the intros are like always too stuffy and weird, and people are like, "Oh, here we go, another canned intro." You know what I mean? I actually kind of like the whole Joe Rogan style of they just like begin and they jump into it and start having
Yeah.
fun with it, you know?
What's up, crypto gamers? I'm pleased to share I've got some updates on Shrapnel. First off, in regard to the litigation, they are open to a reasonable settlement, but they are determined to protect their rights in court and share that they have strong lawyers who will be there to protect them. That statement was shared on their Twitter. Now, on the game side, they have a event planned for the end of November where people are going to be able to dive back into the sacrifice zone for 7 days straight. This event will be aimed at celebrating the community in the last year that they had, and they're going to pack that week full of prizes. There's going to be digital rewards, there's even going to be physical rewards. I hear rumors about controllers and graphic cards, and there's going to be some updates to gameplay too. So they're going to have Revolver, they're going to have a new AR, and I even hear there's going to be a big announcement that week. So certainly stay tuned for more details. When we have a date to share, we will certainly share it. Huge shout out to our sponsor, Playa3ull Games. They are inspired by gamers and funded by their community. They have a epic game on the Epic Games Store, a third-person shooter called Nexus. Hop on in there and check that out. They're also currently selling nodes, so if you're interested, check that out at their website, playable.games. That is a 3 instead of a B on Playable. Now strap in for the rest of this episode of Interlinked.
So
Oh
here
yeah.
we are.
Dive in, brother.
Yeah, no, we've begun. So
Oh,
this is part of it now. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it would be cool to maybe explain a little bit about where you actually are and how that relates to crypto. And I'm just kind of curious, like, how is crypto developing over there? And being in more of a third world country, like, do we just not see how important crypto has actually become to the pipes, the financial pipes of the world?
that's a great question. So, for those that don't know, I'm currently living in El Salvador in Central America, the first country, to my knowledge, that legalized Bitcoin as legal tender, which is a milestone, I think, for blockchain technology and for Bitcoin and all future cryptos to eventually make their way into the mainstream of finance. I got into crypto because I fully believe that blockchain technology and self custody of your money is the future. It is a better banking system. It's not perfect. Nothing is. I think we've seen challenges with security and with other things. I think that some people lack an education, which leads to fear, maybe, of the new technology and how it can be implemented. I think that the United States government for a long time kind of fought against the growth of blockchain technology for fear that it would take over the dollar's dominance in the markets. But um, I believe in blockchain technology, or I wouldn't be in this space. And so, living here in El Salvador, it has been an eye opening experience. While they have implemented it, businesses will take it. They have ATMs all over the place where you can deposit cash into your crypto wallets and things, which I think is awesome and is a move in the right direction. What they lack here is an education. I think that a lot of people here still don't understand it. They are happy because they've seen the price go up, right? The investments that the government has made. I think they started buying Bitcoin around 30K, somewhere in that range, 30 to 40. So those investments are doing really well. When they first opened up, they gave everybody like $30 worth of Bitcoin as like, hey, open your wallet and you get a free $30. And that $30 is probably worth, 60 to 100 by now. And so people have seen um, a change and they're starting to get educated. Everybody I talk to who knows that I'm in this space is very curious and wants to have that conversation and wants to learn more. So I'm seeing an openness to it now that I didn't even in those early conversations when I was just traveling here before I moved here. There was some fear when I would talk to people about, hey, how cool is it that, you guys are legalizing Bitcoin? And it was like, yeah, I don't know about that stuff. It seems like, a scam. And the misinformation, right, that exists, I think held it back, or has continued to hold it back from. But now we're seeing, right now you have the more governments opening up to it. Now you have Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, and this is the shift that's going to take us into the next phase. And as cliche as it is, we were all quite early into this space, but yeah, that's kind of a general overview.
Dude, I think you hit so many interesting points there. The one I think that is like the most just absolutely outrageous is the idea that, at least to me, that's the most outrageous, is the idea that it is a scam because it is used for illicit transactions, and like that whole narrative. And then the second one is like the fact that it's not bullish the US dollar. I mean, let's unpack those for a second, right? If we look at what is the currency that is most used for illicit activity, it
It's the
is
dollar.
the
It's the US
dollar.
dollar, hands down.
Yeah, because it's just cash, it's just paper, and it's untraceable. Like, if I was doing illicit shit, I would use the dollar. I wouldn't use crypto. I know Zach XBT or OX Sleuth. I don't think that's a real person, but you get the point. Like, is
Yeah.
going to track my ass and I'm going to get a knock on my door and it's going to suck. Like I would never do that. That would be the stupidest thing ever. In fact, I'm pretty sure law enforcement has come out to say, we love crypto. We can easily trace everything through all the wallets and transactions and whatnot. So that's easily debunkable. But then the part of crypto being a threat to the US dollar, that's also probably one of the most backwards narratives of all time. First of all, what does everybody denominate the price of crypto in?
USD.
Dollars, USD. So people are thinking in terms of dollars. It's still the global reserve currency, and they're measuring their portfolio in dollars. But also, the rise of stable coins is probably one of the few things that could have happened that could have kept the US dollar as a dominant global reserve currency for, I don't know if it's going to be forever, probably not, this too shall pass, but at least it will elongate that lifespan for at least another couple of decades. And the reason is because you now have people that otherwise had no ability to obtain US dollars because maybe their country is preventing them. They're like geofencing their asses, and they can't get it within that jurisdiction or that geographical space or whatever, maybe. But now they have the internet and they have VPNs, and they have the ability to access stable coins through crypto, through blockchain, and holding a stable coin where you can earn, let's say you go and farm on Aave 5-6% on your money and it's in dollars. That is such a step function change from holding a fiat currency that is debasing 50% per year. Like, yes, a lot of the people who are, more sophisticated investors or traders, whatever that means, are like, well, we don't want to hold dollars because of inflation. Yeah, but that's because you have access to all the other shit that is going on. Like, you can invest in the US stock market and equities and in credit and whatever it is that you want to do because you already have money and you're already in that spot. To a random person in the third world, this is like 1,000x better this is 1,000x improvement on what they had before, which is a currency that was going to absolute shit much faster, 10x, 50x, 100x faster than the US dollar would. It's just
Well,
it's a step function improvement in their lives.
absolutely. And as we've come to know, Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation, right? They print more money constantly. And the US dollar, like you mentioned, is by nature an inflationary currency. And so if you're just leaving your money sitting in a bank, it is slowly losing value year after year. That's why the smart move is to put your money into assets, right? Buying homes, buying real estate, buying gold, buying Bitcoin. These kind of things can help be a hedge against that inflation and potentially a better use of your money. I think the government here in El Salvador that took a lot of their um, reserve currency because they're on the dollar, but they don't have the benefits. Like when COVID hit, they didn't get stimulus checks here, but their dollar lost value nonetheless. So by this country making a pivot and saying, hey, we're going to have Bitcoin also, they're not moving away from the dollar. It's the dollar and Bitcoin. And I think that the future is crypto and fiat. And that's okay. I think we can all agree you don't necessarily want a government digital dollar where they're tracking everything you do, but there's benefits to, like you mentioned, you can trace what's happening on Bitcoin much easier than you can with what's happening in fiat because it's so easy to lose a paper trail. But Bitcoin is, I think you're going to see it continue to grow. I think we are in the early phases of what could be a phenomenal bull run. We're at a new all-time high. Let's celebrate, let's crack open a cerveza and go enjoy these good times. But I think you've been in the crypto market long enough to have seen the ups and downs, right? So there are downsides to getting too euphoric, and taking profit is important. And so there's lessons to be learned. I fear for the new people coming in, as I always do, that they're going to make that mistake of having too much greed and basically round tripping their potential profits, like I've done more than I care to admit. And so having some experience in the market, I think, will benefit us this time around to be able to lock in some of those profits and then diversify. I would love for my crypto portfolio to do well enough for me to take out profit and convert that into a different asset, whether that's physical land or a business that generates income. And so that is my goal as somebody who's been through this before, is know when enough is enough, right? Have an exit strategy while still having fun and learning along the way. And I do think it's a long-term game, right? Like we may see the rise and fall of this current market we're in, but there's a good chance that it continues to rise as more and more countries adopt blockchain technology, invest in Bitcoin. If the United States really does start creating a larger reserve than what they already have from what they took from the Silk Road, stuff, like you could see a serious supply shock. And so those of us who've been in it a bit longer will benefit the most from that. But yeah, I try not to get too invested in it and to not spend money that I can't afford to lose. But it's hard not to right now see the potential. But there's always the downside of a black swan event, of a war breaking out, and the price absolutely plummeting into nothingness, right? But for you just go with it, you buying opportunity, and you wait it out, and then a few years where another opportunity, hopefully. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's an important point to note too. Like nobody knows what the fuck's gonna happen. We have no idea. But
No.
if we look at like who holds the most money in the world and where the massive amounts of liquidity and capital are, a lot of that wealth is in the United States system, like the country of the US. You can simply, how do you measure that? Well, you can measure that in two ways. One is you can look up GDP per country. I think the US GDP is like 28 trillion, 29 trillion, something like that. And then you can look up the total wealth in the country. And I think the US is between 139 to 145 trillion dollars. So that's a significant amount of money and wealth and buying power. And who manages that? Who is the steward of that capital? Well, it's the US financial system. We have the BlackRocks and the Fidelities and the Vanguards and people like that, right? And so the I think a very easy trend to spot is what are those people who are the stewards of capital and who are talking to the people who they own it, but they're handing it off, right? What are they saying? What are they pushing? What are they trumpeting? Because if you show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome. And the incentives for them now are to push Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatever else becomes financialized, meaning there becomes an ETF or some sort of financial product that they can sell. Whatever they can sell and make the most money on, that's what they're going to do. And whatever they're going to push the hardest, they pull the hardest levers. They have the biggest amount of leverage from a influence over capital in on the planet. So they are in.
Speaking,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying this, you make a fantastic point. I also think there's a downside to that, which is these market makers can also become market manipulators and
Of course,
move markets in ways that can take advantage of the average retail investor because they understand that fear greed index where they can crash prices if they want to by big dumps and make people panic sell and then buy back and increase their wealth like they do with the housing market, like they do in so many, like we've seen. And I think that crypto, unfortunately, because it is not as large of a market cap as some other things, it runs the risk of being manipulated by these giant financial institutions that have trillions of dollars at their disposal. And so I think it's a blessing and a curse. I think they can come in and pump our bags, but they could also, intentionally crash people and shake people out. So it's
totally,
that's my
totally.
only worry for big money coming in. It's like regulation, I think, will be a move in the right direction, and these ETFs are a move in the right direction long term. But I think we need to prepare for some market manipulation on their part, like we see in meme coins and smaller cap things all the time.
Thousand percent. Well, I mean, the just to finish my last point too, what I was really getting at was because they're selling it, they're staking their reputation on things like Bitcoin and Ethereum. So at the very least, what I feel most confident in is that they're not going to let it die. Like above all else, the price is gonna go up, the price is gonna go down, cycles are gonna happen, blah 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 blah, whatever. The thing that I feel the most certain of is that they're not gonna let it die because they can't risk that amount of reputational destruction because the investors will then flee all of the other assets and it's too much egg on the face. I don't I would say overwhelming majority of percentage points chance of them not letting it die. But 1,000%, it's going to get manipulated. The bigger that something gets to a point, I mean, at some point it gets so big, there's just not enough capital in the world to like manipulate it and move it. Probably, I should probably actually analyze that assumption, but definitely at the size that we are, before it was just too small and there was not enough liquidity. So it didn't make sense for the big boys to come in and fuck with it. But now we're getting to the point where there is very deep liquidity. There are very deep markets and people are going to do whatever they're going to do. And, capitalism and free market. And I love it. People should do it, but we should definitely expect that when there is a lot of liquidity on the table, AKA when there's a lot of extractable value, people are going to do whatever they can to extract the fuck out of that value. Now, that may be in buying and longing while it's low and waiting for it to go higher and then selling. It may be shorting. Like, we don't know that. I don't think we know that part. But I do think we know that as it hits a certain level of like total amount of liquidity in the system sloshing around, it will attract the bigger fish. Like we were playing with smaller fish. We were playing with, baby sharks. Now we're playing with orcas and killer whales.
Yeah.
It's just going to change the game. It's going to be different. So I think you had a really good point there. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
No, and I one of the things you mentioned liquidity, and one of my fears in if you look back through history is our banking system is a flawed system. They don't keep cash on hand. They're not actually holding onto your money. You can't even go take out your money necessarily if you have a large enough in the bank without so much red tape. And having access to your funds and being able to see how much liquidity actually exists in a currency is, I think, beneficial for us, the consumer, the that self custody over banking. There are people here in El Salvador that can't get bank accounts because of the challenges involved, that didn't have bank accounts, that now can just download a crypto wallet on a phone and go to an ATM and attach an account to that. And now they have access to banking and their own money, and they can send money from the United States through a wallet instantly without the red tape, without the extra fees. I mean, obviously there's fees involved with sending money around, but it's much smaller than when I used to have to send money. I remember my wife's family needed help at one point, and we had sent money, and I was shocked at how much they wanted. It was a percentage of the money I was sending, not like a flat fee to send money. They're like, oh, you're going to send how much money? We want our piece of that. And so the banks are always trying to win. They're giving the least amount of interest while making the most off of your money. And I think putting that control back in the hands of the consumer is a net positive thing. And so that's my hope in a perfect world, that we as a people see the benefit of self-custody of our own currencies, and that everybody has a crypto wallet in addition to a bank account. I think it can be this and that, but it will make banks have to work harder to get your business. If you can just use, like in El Salvador, you really could live off of a Bitcoin wallet here. If you want to, you can use Bitcoin at every establishment. My friend is an architect, and she just got paid in Bitcoin for a job, and now has more money, because when she got paid for it, I think Bitcoin was in the 60s and now it's in the 70s. And so now her money that she just got paid for that job is more. And now she can lock in that profit and still sit on a moon bag, if you will, and have a little bit of leeway. So banks, I think, will have to work harder to compete with that, which is a good thing. Competition for banks ultimately will be a good thing for us, because banks have been taking advantage of people since the beginning of banks. I mean, it's a very flawed system. And so, yeah, nothing's perfect, but I think that's a move that we need to make as a people, to demand better treatment and better access to our own funds.
Totally. Dude, there's like four things that that just got brought up there. So I want to label them, and then let's go one by one and actually tackle these. So one is rehypothecation, meaning banks on paper will be storing more money than they can allow us to withdraw. One, due to the timeline of loans and being able to lend multiple times. I think it's like 12 to 15 times against the same dollar, just given how the infrastructure set up. Okay, so there's rehypothecation. There's us living in a world where there's both fiat wallets or fiat bank accounts and crypto wallets, sending and fees, and then banks actually being disrupted because of this new paradigm. So actually, I think we should tackle sending and the fees of international transfers first, because actually the cool thing is there are ways to send money at no cost now. For example, if you use a Coinbase Web3 wallet, which is just an app on your phone, you can download biometrics, easy AF. You can offload and onload whatever that is from Coinbase directly to the wallet, and then you're on your Web3 adventure. But if you use USDC on multiple networks like Base or Arbitrum or Polygon, maybe Ethereum, probably not, but maybe Ethereum, so on and so forth, those are free sends. You can send USDC for free. So you can literally transfer an unlimited amount of money from one place to the other using crypto without having any fees. Now, it's a little bit misleading because you have to get the capital into USDC. Oftentimes there is slippage. Maybe you can use Coinbase as an on-ramp, move your USD to USDC. At lower levels, they will convert 1-to-1, but whenever you buy, there's the slippage and the price impact and all that kind of stuff. Market makers need to, take their fees and whatnot. But essentially, for most people sending reasonable amounts of money, you can send it for free now, today. That is here. And I've worked with virtual assistants in the past, and trying to send through PayPal, nightmare. Trying to send through literally any other method besides wallet to wallet USDC into their account directly, it's a nightmare. And they were happier with it because it's in crypto, so they can move it however they want. And they all have Binance outside of the US, so it works. You know what I mean? So we do live in a world now where we don't have to pay a percentage of funds just to move it from one place to the other. That is a step function improvement over anything else that we've ever had any other time in history when it comes to sending money.
Absolutely. And why shouldn't we have that access to send our money that we've earned? We're taxed on it when we make it. We're taxed on it when we spend it. Everybody's always trying to take their piece along the way. And it's like, how many times can you be taxed and feed off the money that you worked hard to make? And so the the more of that we can cut out, the more middlemen we can cut out and go direct from you to me, is better for us. Pack.
Totally.
Period. End of story. That's how it should be. So I love that blockchain technology has made that available, because all of those things you mentioned, PayPal, your bank accounts, sending through Zelle, everything wants to take a little bit more, just a little bit more of what you've already paid your fair share of, if you will.
Totally. And I definitely think that there is now like the pendulum has swung back, I think, to where there's now going to be retribution against the rent seekers in the economy. Like every time you go from point A to point Z, the B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, all of those are now getting eliminated and they're getting cut out. And people are mad at those people for having, for all these years, taken the little slice and the little slice and the little slice. Now, don't get me wrong. They will find a way to continue to leech and to continue to rent seek for sure. That's not going away. But for those who know how to execute it properly, which, it's kind of niche still to send USDC using a Coinbase Web3 wallet. It's a niche thing still,
Oh, the number of people who have crypto wallets is not large, right? It's not the majority of the world or even a slight minority. It is a small amount of people have crypto wallets, understand it, are actually using that to send and receive money. We're such a small community, and even though it's global and there's a percentage of us all over the world, we're a long way away from mass adoption, right? And I think that comes at the other end of safety, right? I think that there's still some kinks to work out so that people feel safe holding. They've heard all the horror stories of people clicking a link and having their wallets drained, and so there's still fear in getting into crypto, and an education that's required. And the less of the education that's required and the easier it is and the safer it is, the more people will continue to flow in. And I think that we're seeing some of those problems get solved. You look at the companies that come out to protect us. One of our own citizens, it's creating, or a group of citizens, the Kerberos, the security of knowing that, like, that double check of like, hey, maybe you shouldn't click that link. Like, that extra layer of security, that extra layer of confidence that you can have in your wallet goes a long way.
100%. Shout out to the Kerberos team, Metro and Danor. These
Amazing
individuals are freaking giga chads, big brains, have protected so many citizens. We love you guys. Absolute friends of the pod. Maybe we should probably have you guys onto the pod at some point. But anyways, you guys are
should.
awesome.
Speaking of big brains and giga chads, I think that we should potentially discuss the Whisperer and the amazing challenge that was just recently presented to citizens and meatbags alike, in the hunt for clues. What an amazing event. It's not over yet. Tomorrow is the finale, which should be a fun one. But I don't know when this pod comes out, so it'll probably be yesterday or whenever next week when this comes out. We will have already completed the challenges. But just bravo to the team between Firestorm and Seas and Crasher with the amazing merch drops, and just the execution was incredible. The coming together of citizens again, like these are the types of things that brought me into Neo Tokyo and that I fell in love with. It's still the best time I ever had was those original hunts of trying to solve clues and find those speakeasies and make our way into the Citadel. It's a great feeling to be back at it again.
Well, I will say you probably are in the easily top 1% of riddle solvers. You know, you're you're the elite of riddle solvers yourself. My theory is that being the meme lord that you are, you just see the world in a different way, and you see the things that other people are just not seeing. Like maybe you can kind of take us behind the scenes of how does that how does that even work? How are you even in that frame of mind?
First and foremost, I cannot take credit for the big brains that exist in the group that I worked with, both getting into the Citadel in the first time during the Codebreaker hunts, and then again working together for the Whisper Challenge. I wouldn't be where I'm at on the leaderboard or in the competition without their amazing talents that range from being able to scrape websites and look at audio and do these things that, like, we come together as a team, and I think we all bring a unique perspective. But I think the real key to those challenges wasn't you being some giga chad huge brain person, but teaming up with a group of people that all bring a unique perspective and talent to the table. And I just hope that I provided value along the way to my team, because yeah, a lot of them made the top 55 and are competing for the Whisperer. And but I wouldn't be there without them. So I'm not some, amazing riddle solver. I've surrounded myself with smart people, which is what Neo Tokyo is, right? What is it if not a network of some of the smartest, most talented, amazing people that I've had the pleasure of getting to know online. And so that's the lesson in this: is surround yourself with smart, successful people if you want to be successful.
All right, so you're a humble meme lord, but still, take us take us behind the scenes. Like, what did you see? How do you even begin on that kind of stuff? Like, do you have like a checklist of like, okay, I know this riddle. It makes is it or is it just like it makes me think of, and then you go off on your own and nobody can really replicate that? Or is it more of like, okay, these are the things I think we should check. I want to check this. Maybe you use AI. Like, how do you even approach solving the riddles? How do you even start?
I mean, wow, the collection of riddles this time around was such a unique grouping of different challenges to get to the point that we're at. I can't say that it's one thing. Each challenge presented its own obstacles and its own challenges within each puzzle, within each thing, and one thing led to another. I'd say it starts with the diabolical genius that is Seas and his ability to thread the lore into this. And Firestorm, I'm sure, had his hands in this as well, in creating these puzzles and images. And I mean, did you see the solve on a couple of the elite codes and the rabbit hole that you had to go down to find, oh, okay, well, I saw this brass knuckles and that led me to this, which led me to this, which led me to this wallet, which,
Crazy.
it's incredible the thought that went into the creation of these things. That final image from phase 2 that Jeff made, which, shout out to Jeff, your art is incredible. I would hang it on my wall, and it's phenomenal. And
Gandalf clap.
it drove us all crazy because there were so many variables. Here's this Whisper bartender with this beautiful art style in the middle of all these, this shrine of objects behind him, and putting together that those were ordinals, and then each had an inscription number, and then turning those inscription numbers into letters to get a word, to get a password. It's incredible what they were able to create. And I don't think a person could have done it on their own, made it through all of these challenges and riddles without a little bit of guidance and help, or without a great team, because it was so intricate. And that was just one of them, right? You have the QR codes, which had 3 different levels to how to solve the 3 different quadrants that were left. And uh, it's mind blowing to think of the work that went in to creating this for us, and then to execute on that is like those 2 things together. Just, I have nothing but amazing things to say to that team.
Yeah, Gandalf clap all the way, 100%. That's, by the way, that's one of my favorite memes of all time. Is Gandalf
Oh,
doing his or not Gandalf, Dumbledore, the Dumbledore clap.
the Dumbledore,
It,
yeah.
yeah. All right. Anyways, but yeah, no, to be able to think about, I mean, they're playing 4D chess. To be able to think about all the different riddles, where to hide stuff, how it loops in with the lore, building the art around it, leaving the clues, making it so hard, but not hard enough, but not too easy, but not, like there's just so much there that comes together to build a really special, awesome experience. And then to have that carrot at the end, dangle the carrot for everybody of, okay, you get a top 7 citizen. You get literally a hand of the Citadel, which it's just beyond awesome, right?
I would
Just
argue that the Whisperer is a top 3 citizen. I would challenge you to find a more iconic piece of the Neo Tokyo lore than the Whisperer, the bartender, who's kind of been seen all throughout the lore images and everything we've built. And then this particular challenge, having a whole set of merch behind this character, having this event be, I think, the largest of the 3, maybe not in comparison to that original hunt because it was pushed so heavily by Becker and Elio. But I think that the Whisperer of all of them is one of the coolest characters in the whole collection, and the lore that Seas was able to write into his story. I don't think we've seen the end of it yet, or gotten to see the culmination of who he is as a character. But it's just such a cool thing to. And I would say that he's one of the most iconic, like the most recognizable outside of Becker, the Lord of Light and the Lord of Darkness that we have. I think that it's a great addition to the collection.
totally, 100%. And I think it really taps into what made Neo Tokyo special in the beginning, which is giving people the ability to dream about what can be or what could be, and hopefully what will be. Like to me, when I first kind of stumbled upon Neo Tokyo through no fault of my own, got very lucky there. Um, what I discovered was this is here's what it felt like to me in Snow Crash. I'm not sure if you've read it or the audience if y'all have read it, but
I'm familiar. I haven't read it
yeah,
myself, but I know what you're talking about.
definitely at least read like the first 2 chapters and you'll fully get what I'm saying. But the main character, funnily enough, named hero protagonist, he was entering into the metaverse. It's where this is turned, where it was coined, so on and so forth. And in the metaverse, one of the first scenes is he goes to this very exclusive club where people are on the outside desperately trying to get in, sell their wares. They have no idea what's going on inside. They are FOMOing so hard. They have been kind of left behind by this world. They are the lesser beings, very clearly. And there's like digital protection, and you have to have this certain badge, or you have to be a certain, have this certain character or whatever it is to be able to get in. Obviously that means you need to be a citizen of that particular club. And he goes in, and these are people that he's known for years that were the initial OGs, movers and shifters of the metaverse. And he's like one of the top swordsmen of all time. And he meets with, somebody who's like one of the top virtual land owners, and this other person who's like a top hacker. And you have like all of these epic people that are these virtual characters in this exclusive club that everybody's trying to get into, but they can't because nobody who's in it wants to get rid of their membership or let go of that because it's the most precious thing that they hold. Did I not just describe part like 80 to 90% of the most epic parts of Neo Tokyo? Like it
Hands
is
down. And
yes.
no, it's I remember vividly getting into Neo Tokyo, and you were there. You were day one mentor, right?
I got
Or did you
wrecked
buy
day
in
one.
later?
I bought
Did
in,
you?
yeah.
Oh, you bought in. Okay.
I
Well,
couldn't figure out the riddles. That's why I'm always so like
you
just
weren't with the
blown
right group.
away.
That's you
Yeah,
didn't find the
exactly.
right group yet. So I was lucky. I was lucky enough to be part of the round one, group one mentors, right? And so I had an early lead on everybody to figure out that contract. Even minting off a contract was new to me. I had just come from a project, was new to NFTs. I just gotten rugged, but through that rug project, we found a community of people that solved the riddles together. So without that rugged experience, I wouldn't be an NT. But that
Wow.
group that came together to solve those riddles, once we got in, I remember thinking as the floor price just started climbing and going crazy into numbers that I was like, ooh, this is a really good selling up. Maybe I'm being an idiot for not selling. And obviously, you can say in hindsight, you could have sold, waited a little bit, bought back in, still been in the community. But for me, I made the decision at the beginning that this was my education. I got in for free. It cost me gas money, basically. And um, so it didn't matter what number was there. I was going to NFT crypto college and I was joining an elite community that I knew would lead me to bigger and better things. So it wasn't about that one time payday. For me, it was about the getting into that exclusive club that I couldn't have bought into after the fact. It was inaccessible to me. So to be part of that, and then I was like, I'm going to use my skill set to contribute to become a valuable part of this community, and I'm going to use that to grow my network. And that was an opportunity for the early days for us. It was so easy to take a big payday and bounce and say thanks for the free money, because we all got handed huge amounts of bytes and all of these things at the time, which would have been life changing on their own, right? But nothing would have been better for me than becoming a community member. As much of a meme as that is in so many situations, like there's no better community in my eyes. And I've been in some great communities in NFTs. Neo Tokyo is elite, and it is not like any other group of people. And I'm so grateful to be part of it.
Dude, I could not echo that sentiment more. Like there I think one of the funniest lines that I've heard that I will forever steal and use, and it's just the real alpha was the friends we made along the way. You know what I
Facts.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like charts are gonna go up and down, but the people and the relationships, those, if you're doing it right, are there to stay. And to me, that also has been the most powerful part of NT. And like personally, I've met some of my, some of my favorite people in the whole world, some of my best friends through NT. I've met business partners, I've met employees. I got employment opportunities all within different cycles of my career and, so on and so forth. Found investment opportunities. Like it has been a complete game changer for me personally. If you would have told me, okay, you can either get a citizen and flip it and make a couple hundred grand back then, or you wait and you put money in and you get all of the benefits that you've gotten. Like if I could have gone back and said I could quick flip it, or I could do what I did and have this full path, I would choose the path every time. And yes, hindsight's 2020, so like I know that it is just a much better decision, but like to to me, like the the best part of crypto is actually a place where you have really smart people that are hungry and that are good people. For the most part, you're always gonna have bad apples, but that are coming in to build something in a fresh industry. And we have the idea that we want to be on the forefront of something that could and hopefully will and probably will change the world forever. And like, that is super fun. That is super cool. That to me, helping to shape the future of technology and virtual worlds, that and doing it with your friends, that to me sounds like a fun life and something worth doing. Like you
Do
can make
you
all the money you want, but if you don't have anybody to like enjoy that with, then you probably made a bad trade along the way. And I'm not saying money's not important. Money solves all money problems. And I definitely think, money's a wonderful thing when used appropriately as a tool. It's not, but it's not the goal. The goal is living a wonderful life.
do you ever in your IRL or just when you step out of our bubble of crypto bros as they as they like to say in a demeaning way, do you ever see people making fun of NFTs or crypto with no understanding of it? And it's always baffling to me to see a group of people so quick to villainize or make assessments and judgments about a group of people or what's going on. Like people make fun of, even within crypto itself, there's people who make fun of people who think crypto gaming will be a thing, right? And there's people who are Bitcoin maxis who think, oh, if you're buying altcoins, you're an idiot, right? So there's even groups within our group. But it's always funny to me to see people totally miss the point. Like when people talk about NFTs as like worthless JPEGs because of something they read in an article, it's like, yeah, because you don't see the community aspect. I've never seen a technology or a social media that builds community like NFT communities. It just, in my life, I'm turning 40. I'm older now, and so um, I've never seen anything quite like what NFTs do as far as the creation of communities. People talk about it with meme coins. People talk about it, in social media groups and before that was Facebook groups and things. None of that comes anywhere near what I've seen in Neo Tokyo or what I see happening with the Azuki community or with these other groups of people that have come together with like-minded or not like-minded people, but with a similar goal in mind and a similar love for something or understanding of something. It it amazes me. I think when people start to see it, they'll appreciate it more. And if they don't, they don't, and that's okay too. It's not for everybody, right? People who love sports, like, it's not for everybody. I love watching sports. Some people think it's dumb. That's okay. We can both enjoy our lives and do our own thing. But the community building that happens in this space is unlike anything outside of it in my world experience.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think possibly one of the reasons is because for the first time, those who see the world as what it could be from the perspective of the metaverse and crypto gaming and virtual worlds, like to maybe take a step back for a second and expand on this thesis for a bit, like the metaverse is just the internet. We already fucking live in it. So let's just stop wasting our breath debating, are we in a metaverse? Is the metaverse real? Is it going to happen? Blah, 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 blah. It's here. We're living in it. We've been in it since 1990 or 1991, whenever the commercial internet has been alive. Okay. It's just going to get more immersive over time. We've seen digital transformation take place over the last however many decades. That trend is only going to continue. In fact, crypto just seems like digital transformation of capital and money, which is very, very impactful to the world. So it's only going to get more immersive. It's going to become more 3D for sure. We're going to spend more time there. The young people have grown up in virtual worlds. They get it more than anybody else does. They're virtual native. And so the metaverse is here and it's going to stay. Technology's going to happen. It's already happened. It is going to continue to happen, so on and so forth. But there are a lot of people in denial or that don't care or that aren't thinking about it or think that like we're going to go back to horses. Newsflash, we have cars. We're not going to go back to horses. Like that's silly, right? But we still are in this transition period where it feels weird to people. And so I think that we have, as a community, locked onto the shining, glorious vision of what the world will become, we believe will become. And now we feel like we are here to help usher humanity into that next stage, or at least be on the forefront and build towards that new age. So I think it's a combination of, it was very well done. The branding, the art, the story was very seductive. It's sexy. It's fucking cool. Plus, you have some really smart people in the founders who put this together and who infused lifeblood and energy and effort into it. And smart people will attract smart people to want to be a part of their thing. And then you've now had a unifying piece, which is part of the financial piece, is also unifying people into it so that there's a real stake that people have. It's something that you care about for sure. And all of that's wrapped together, and then your friends are there, and we get to like do something fun, which is be our citizens, aka be cartoon characters and play around on the internet and like change the world doing that. It's hard to not like it's hard for it to not be obvious to us that this is one of the most epic things of all time and we get to be a part of it. But for somebody out there who doesn't see it and they aren't a part of it and they don't get it, I could totally understand how they would be skeptical. But perhaps we can learn from that in saying, okay, when the next thing comes up, perhaps we can see that and we can remember how others were skeptical of us and what they missed out on because they weren't willing to dive deeper below the surface. And perhaps that will inspire us to dive deeper under the surface of the next thing so that we don't become the jaded old people or the jaded, like, rigid people who were not open-minded to the next thing. That is what I
Well
would
said.
hope we become.
No, well said. And to each their own, right? There are going to be people who would prefer to live out in nature and have their existence be entirely disconnected from the online world. And I respect and support that wholeheartedly. I think there's huge
Totally.
value in real, genuine human connection. I think you see it at IRL events in when we get to meet, or just being on this Zoom call, like getting to actually have a conversation with each other in real time versus just typing on a keyboard or being in a Discord together. There's levels to it. And so I think there's huge value in real human connection. I think we're going to see, I love the idea that we're seeing the foundation of that Ready Player One style metaverse that could exist where we could go in, whether that's through VR, AR, some capacity, to actually be in closer connection with each other. Through Neo Tokyo, we have friends all over the world. We have friends who live in Portugal and in Central America and in America and Canada and all over the world. And that's a fascinating thing. And being able to come together in a Discord is cool. Imagine that next level when we can wear our digital skins and interact with each other and play games and feel that level of connection while still being thousands of miles apart. I think that's really cool. Not everybody's going to vibe with that, and that's okay. I love a world where we're headed. I think that the what we're seeing with AI technology and the exponential growth of what they're doing in digital video creation and image creation, and like, I'm not threatened as a Photoshop artist and meme maker that AI is going to come do it better than me. I want to learn how to utilize the technology and benefit from it. I want to learn how to use these chatbots to make my life easier, to provide more time to spend with my daughter and go do things that I love and enjoy. And so I'm optimistic. I'm always optimistic, right? I tend to live in that space. So I'm excited about the future. I'm excited to be part of this. Having grown up, I was born in the 80s and I got to watch the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s, and I've seen the world evolve and change in a way that our parents didn't see it. They didn't see the cell phone coming. They didn't know that internet would take over the world in the way that it has. They couldn't have predicted that. In the same way, I don't think we, even in the know, can predict what that next phase looks like for our kids, for that next generation. So it's a fascinating time to be alive. And right now, look at the markets. Look at this. What a better time to be in the crypto world while things are pumping. We're headed back towards that path to euphoria, to all the things that we enjoyed that last cycle around, when people were snapshotting their crypto portfolios before, we crashed back down to zero. Like, we've gotten to watch it all unfold, and it's a pretty special thing, and we shouldn't take that for granted.
Agreed completely. Agreed 1,000%. We are a little bit over time, so I do wanna say thank you very much for coming on the pod today. As the dankest of meme lords, usually you're making us look good on the thumbnails and on all of our imagery on the pod. So a very deep and sincere thank you for all the work that you do for the pod and for Neo Tokyo in general. You do so much
I'm
for us, so
grateful.
thank you.
I'm grateful to be part of the team. I have to give you guys your flowers. I watch the podcast. I get to watch it before everybody else. I'm lucky enough to get to see the early cut before LeBoomington has done his magic. But just shout out to you guys for adding value to the community. These amazing conversations you have with founders, where I get to learn about new projects and everything. The Interlinked podcast is such a cool place to come have a conversation. I'm grateful to gotten to come on and connect with you, and I look forward to joining future episodes as well. Hopefully we can get more of the team in on it, because I love connecting with you guys, and I look forward to our future successes together.
100%. Definitely want to have you on the pod more. This has been a lot of fun. Sir, thank you very much. Grand Rising. And to all of the folks listening and watching, citizens, Grand Rising to you. Meat bags. It's cold out there. Might try to you might want to try to get back in here because it's mighty frosty outside of the Citadel. Anyways, appreciate you, Photoshop. Catch you next
Cheers.
time.
Much love, brother. Cheers.